I'm back in the best company, that of our Israel Brief community all over the world. If you are new to our community, welcome to it. There is always room for so many more. In fact, we're not just a community, we think of ourselves as a family. So if we are meeting for the first time, I am Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. We bring you those top stories making headlines in Israel. We do it every Monday to Thursday, and so many of you say to me, I didn't hear about this story or that story on the mainstream media, and thank goodness we have the Israel Brief. In fact, one of the messages I received earlier today was that there was nothing in the South African media about the 6 hostages who were executed by Hamas and who were brought back to Israel and laid to rest. So we are always going to keep it real. We're going to bring you the news as it is happening in Israel. Now, some people might not like what we have to say, but this is a news site, and our role is to bring you the news, the stories that are happening on the ground in Israel. As always, we are brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land, and a little bit more about where you can find Lay of the Land and all of our original content a little later. But let's get into those top stories. It is day 334. We are very, very close to just being 1 month away from the year since the atrocities of the 7th of October. Now, in an interesting move, the United States has filed criminal charges against 6 senior Hamas leaders, including the leader of Hamas and the mastermind of the 7th of October attacks, Yahya Sinwar. The charges that were filed in a Washington, D.C. court include accusations or charges, rather, of mass murder, orchestrating the assault, the use of weapons of mass destruction, supporting terrorism, and of course we can't forget that at least 10 Americans were amongst the 250 that were kidnapped. We still have Americans being held captive by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, this follows President Biden's outrage that he expressed over the execution of Hersh Goldberg Polin. Hersh, who almost became the face of the hostages. We are so connected to his story, his family, that they feel a part of our story, our families. And the president, the vice president, the president or the former President Trump, and so many across the United States and the world absolutely outraged and devastated at Hersh and the brutal murder of the other 5 hostages, Ori, Almog, Alex, Carmel, and Eden. Now, what this means in practicality, we don't know. We don't know how a warrant of arrest can be issued for terrorists like Sinwar, who remains Israel's most wanted man. But this is a move in the right direction to seek justice for the victims and bring the perpetrators, the terrorists behind this, to trial. During the course of today, at least 65 rockets were fired from Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon towards the north of Israel. Now, some scored direct hits in places like Kiryat Shmona, setting off major fires and damaging at least 1 house. Some were intercepted and others fell in empty areas. But if they fall in empty areas, very often, because it is very hot here in Israel, it is dry, it's not rainy season yet, they set off massive fires and firefighters battle blazes for days that cause real destruction to farms, to businesses, to communities, to homes, and to natural resources. And of course, we haven't heard anything from the international community and very little from the mainstream media. The situation in Israel's north seems to be the most undercovered or underreported world event that is happening right now. And it hasn't just been happening for the last couple of days or weeks. This has been happening since the 8th of October. And and Israel holds the Lebanese government responsible for every rocket, every anti-tank missile, every drone that is fired, because they are in violation of UN Resolution 1701, which insists that Hezbollah stay north of the Blue Line, the Litani River. Now, the United Nations Security Council will convene later today. They will have their first meeting about hostages since the events of the 7th of October. And that's going to bring me to our audience question of today, which was submitted by Lance from Toronto. We're going to get to your question, Lance, in a second. But the big question in Israel remains: there are UNIFIL troops stationed in the south of Lebanon. Their mandate was extended. Why are they not doing their job? Why are we not hearing from the international community? Yesterday, the IDF and the ISA announced that they had struck a school which was being used as a command center by several Hamas terrorists that included Ahmed Wadia. Ahmed Wadia led the attack on Kibbutz Netiv HaSara, which is very, very close to the border with Gaza. Now, if you are familiar with some of the stories from the 7th of October and the footage, you will be familiar with the most horrendous story of a grenade that was thrown at a family, a father with his two young sons hiding in the safe room. And the father jumped on the grenade and paid with his life in order to save his young boys. The oldest son had already been murdered by Hamas terrorists at Zikim Beach, and the one son, in fact, lost the sight in his one eye. While these two devastated and traumatized little boys were trying to come to terms with the fact that their father had just been murdered in front of them, Ahmed Wadia went to their refrigerator, took out a bottle of Coke and proceeded to drink it as cool as a cucumber. Well, as our Prime Minister would say, we have settled that account with Wadia. And this is just one of the many atrocities of that day. Now, I have been to Kibbutz Netiv HaSara. I know it well. And one of the projects that they have at the kibbutz is a project called Path to Peace, about a kilometer away from where the homes are, and on the border wall between Israel and Gaza, they have what they call the peace wall. And what you can do as part of this project is you can get a little ceramic tile, and you can put your ceramic tile on the wall of peace in the hope of building peace between our two people, the Palestinians and the Israelis. So that's who Hamas came to kill on the 7th of October, the people who wanted peace above all. And finally, somebody who's not so much of a peace activist, she is a climate activist, Greta Thunberg, the infamous Greta. Well, she has resurfaced and was promptly arrested by Danish police earlier today. What happened, you ask? Well, I will tell you. Greta, along with anti-Israel activists, descended on the University of Copenhagen in Denmark to demonstrate against the university and demand the complete divestment from any dealings with Israel. University authorities had asked them several times to please vacate the premises, which they refused, and that was settled by the Danish police. What I do find absolutely astonishing is that Miss Greta, who is an activist, has not said a peep about the animals that were slaughtered, about the land that has been burned, about the wholesale slaughter that occurred on the 7th of October and subsequently. I guess that narrative is not too convenient when your narrative is anti-Israel. So now let's get to the audience question, and it's very, very pertinent. Lance from Toronto says, why has it taken so long for the UN Security Council to meet about the hostages? I think that's a question we all want to know, Lance, and I think we're all asking the same thing. Is the United Nations still relevant when they have been appalling since the 7th of October. Not only is this the first time the UN Security Council is meeting to discuss hostages, we heard from one Security Council ambassador earlier today from Slovenia who said that the Council is losing patience over the lack of a ceasefire. Well, you know, the solution is very simple. Hand back all 101 of our hostages and lay down your arms, Hamas, and you will have as much of a ceasefire as you wish. Also, we have seen the behavior of the UN General Assembly yet to condemn the atrocities of the 7th of October. It will be very, very interesting to see if the Prime Minister addresses this fact during his speech later this month. The UN woman who took months to acknowledge the mass sexual violence committed against Israeli women and girls, UNICEF, the World Health Organization, the United Nations Human Rights Council barely registering our hostages and also our victims of the atrocity. So I think that every country, and not to mention UNRWA, how can I forget UNRWA and their complicitness in the atrocities and the subsequent war. So I think the question everybody has to ask is not just why they have taken so long to respond, but are they still even relevant at all? So thank you, Lance, for submitting your question. And if any of you want to submit yours, please pop it in the comment section below or be in touch with us via our website. And you can find that website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook page is at Lottel Site. Thank you for all your wonderful wishes for our incredible Paralympians. Israel taking our 4th gold medal yesterday. Ami Dadon winning his 3rd medal at the Paralympics, 2 golds and a silver. What a hero. So thank you for your wonderful messages. You can find us on X at Lay of the Land 5. Our YouTube channel is right at the Israel Brief. Hit that red subscribe button, guys. Let's grow our community. And on Instagram, on my personal page at Rolene Marks. So guys, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you, and I will see you again for your brief, your news updates that you will get here, even if you don't get it in your media, tomorrow. God bless.